Welcome to Mum Abroad's YouTube channel, where I'm joined today by Anya Van Der Drift. Anya was born in London in the UK, but has spent the last 10 years living in Barcelona with her Dutch husband and 2 children. She's a qualified primary school teacher and has experience teaching in both public and private schools in Spain and the UK. Before becoming a teacher, Anya lived and worked in the Netherlands. Her background's in teaching, but also her experience of going through the process of choosing schools for her own children in Barcelona motivated her to start My Barcelona School in 2018. As an educational consultant, she supports families through the process of finding and choosing schools and preschools in Barcelona and the surrounding areas. Hello, Anya.
Hi, Jane. How are you?
Great, thank you. Thank you for joining me today.
You're welcome.
Anya, what brought you to Barcelona in the first place, and how did you find those first few months when you were here with a toddler?
Well, I came here initially because my husband was offered a job in a company that he really liked. And at that point, I was on maternity leave, I guess having the time with a small baby and more time to think rather than to work meant that I started to reassess what I was doing in England. I had been a teacher for quite a few years, and I thought, well, why not have a new start? Why not move to a new country with my son still being quite small? He's quite portable. And I thought it's going to be an adventure. Why not? The first few months for me were a whirlwind of getting to know a new place. I remember lots of walking around with my son, looking up at the buildings, kind of being in a bit of a dream world of, I'm actually here, I'm living this new life, very different to the kind of life that I was living in the UK. And something that really helped me during those few months, and surely is a help for everybody who went through or goes through the same thing I went through, is I found a really good group of families who were going through the same thing as I was. So international families with young children who had come to Spain for the same kind of reasons I did, for a bit of adventure, to try something new. And they were a really good support network at the beginning of my time here, and continue to be so.
So, Anya, how was your experience choosing a school for your son and then shortly afterwards for your daughter? I'm particularly wondering if your approach to finding a school was different to the average parent, because you have a background in teaching.
Initially, I found the process quite daunting. The main reason was, at that point, I didn't understand or speak any Catalan. And as families who move here soon realize, if you want your children to go to a local school, a public or a concertada school, the main language of instruction is Catalan, but that also means the meetings are all in Catalan, the information is all in Catalan. So I went to many open days when I started looking for my son, and I quickly came to realize that I was going to have to fall back on my teacher instinct to help me with the process. And the way that I did this was, there were visual things that I was looking for when I went on open days. For example, something really important for me, because I've worked in schools, is the relationships between the members of staff at the school. So that how the teachers communicate to each other, how they respond to questions. For me, this is a really important sign to look out for when you go to visit schools, because happy teachers that communicate together well, it means a happy school, and which should be a happy child, because they feel the warmth of the people around them. Another thing I was looking out for was the kind of learning that was taking place as far as I could see it. Obviously, having a lot of experience of teaching, I know what I expect children to be doing, the kind of things they're capable of at different ages. So where I could kind of see what was going on, I was looking out for specific things that I hoped would be happening, obviously cultural differences aside. So I would be looking at displays on the walls. I would, as far as possible, talk to people if I was able to, and kind of find out what the children were doing. And things like facilities, yes, I looked out for that, and everyone obviously looks at what the building's like. But I soon started to realize that my expectations of a school facility should look like are quite different to what I am used to. And I think many parents recognize this when they start looking, and they think, oh, the classrooms maybe are a bit small, or the patio doesn't have much green. What I look out for, not necessarily good facilities, or I didn't look out for good facilities. I looked at how inventive the school had been with the facilities that they have. And I think that comes from, years of being in school and having a confidence to recognize what I consider a good supportive school is, and one that, isn't really making the effort.
There's some really interesting points there, Anya. And you touched on language. Your children are growing up in a bilingual household, and you also live in Catalunya, which is a bilingual region of Spain.
Yeah.
How much was language a consideration when you were looking for schools?
For me and my husband, it was really important for us that our children be exposed to the local language. I'm an English speaker, my husband is a Dutch speaker, and we felt that we were going to be here for the long haul. So for us, we wanted them to go to a school that the main language was Catalan. Obviously, every family has their different way of viewing it. So that left us with many options, because obviously there's many public schools and concertadas. And in case people don't know, the concertada being a school that is privately run, but partially publicly funded. So many people talk about concertadas as if they're vastly different to the publics, but there's many, many similarities, including the application process. So anyway, we were looking at public schools or concertadas for our children, which meant that we could focus on the philosophy. So for us, the feel of the school, the atmosphere of the school, the kind of things, that kind of values the school has, were much more important for us than looking, for example, for an English-speaking school, because we wanted our children to be taught in English.
So, Anya, you're an experienced teacher, as we've said, and then you found yourself on the other side of the fence as a parent looking for schools.
Sure.
At what point did you decide that you could use all of this knowledge and help other parents?
Yeah, interesting. When I first moved here, I had this idea that maybe I wanted to not necessarily move entirely out of teaching, but I wanted to kind of reassess my role as a teacher. Having children of my own kind of made my thinking shift a little bit in terms of my teaching career. And I was looking, I must admit, looking out for what am I going to do? What can I, where can I bring the skills that I have into a profession that gives me satisfaction? And I was always speaking to friends and people and acquaintances. As soon as they heard that I was a teacher, invariably the conversation starts of talking about local schools or international schools and asking my advice and what I think about this school and that school. And it just, very much I was kind of helping people in an informal basis. And one day I met a family who were thinking of moving to Spain, moving to Barcelona, and we invariably got onto the conversation about schools. And maybe a few days after the conversation, the father emailed me about something else and said, oh, you should do this. You should help people with schools. And I don't think he quite realized how I was going to take that and run with it. But really, there was something clicked inside me as soon as he said that. I was like, I would really, really like to do that. And I think I really, having lived here for 10, or at that point, 5 or 6 years, I really feel I have a really good starting base to start this and start helping families. I like to help people. And this is a way that I can really help people in a way that I think is really useful.
So your business has obviously grown organically, and you have some wonderful testimonials on your website. It's really clear, Anya, that you offer a very professional service. Your clients have described you as insightful, invaluable, and extremely knowledgeable. So what do you think drives you to give such a personalized service?
Well, as I was just saying, for me, I really enjoy helping people. I always have, and it's just an extension of that. I also put myself in their position. I've been through what these families have been through, coming to a new country, sometimes not speaking the language, sometimes you can speak Spanish or Catalan, but it's still maybe a new experience for you having to choose a school for your child. And I put myself in their position, and I want to help them have the most stress-free and enjoyable experience of choosing a school for their children, because it's a really important process. It's a process that can go either way. If you find a good fit for your family, that really influences the kind of life you can live here. If it works in terms of the kinds of families that go to the school, where it's located, all of these things can really impact on the kind of life you have here and the joy you take from living in Barcelona. If it's a tricky situation with the school, that can really influence whether you feel at home here. It can influence the routes you make or don't make here. So for me, it's really important to get it right. And that's what I see. Every new family has their unique needs and experiences. And I try to make sure that each one of those families are given everything that they need to make the best decision possible.
I know that you offer different types and levels of packages, Anya. So perhaps you could give us an example of what will be included in the basic package and how that works.
All packages start with an hour consultation. This can be online and in person, but more and more often it's online, where we talk about the family's needs, their expectations. I ask about the children. I ask about previous schooling. Lots and lots of questions asked from my side, so that I can start to get a picture of what makes this family unique. Now, this is followed up by me going away, sometimes doing a little bit more research, because obviously schools change. I'm trying to find, make sure that I have all the information I need for this particular family. And then with the basic package, the families will go off and contact the schools themselves, make appointments with the schools themselves. But I do offer a more extensive package where I will be the person who contacts the schools, checks about numbers, helps with the application process, and making sure that the families have a much smoother entry into the whole process. All of the packages include a kind of follow-up post-mortem of the whole school's process, or the search process, where we talk about what they've seen, discuss how that might influence other factors in their lives in Barcelona. Any follow-up questions are asked and answered. And with the idea that I help them, I help with the process of making a decision about the school. So the basic package is very much more a school search package, and I make suggestions and help them navigate the system, where the more complete package will be much more helping them along the whole process from start to finish.
Obviously, not every family fits neatly into a package. So you also offer a more customized service. Can you give us examples of perhaps some more unusual requests that you've had, or situations where you've had to go away and do more research?
I'm always learning. And that's something I really like about this job, is that there's always something new to learn about specific schools or the school system. So for me, I'm always researching. It's not a simple case of, okay, this is the right school for you. I'm always kind of contacting schools, asking for more information. An example at the moment I'm working with a family, an international family, with a child with a specific educational need. And this means that I am having to kind of pull on my resources from the years of living here. So asking other professionals, actually contacting friends or acquaintances that I have that maybe have some more input that I don't have. It will be contacting specific schools, and it requires a kind of deeper level of research than perhaps I need to do for most families. It's more work for me, and that won't necessarily be a customized package, because I'm offering a family with a child with special needs the same package as a family that, you know, ticks all the boxes of the normal, perhaps international school. But what it gives me is a much deeper understanding of how things work here, and it's always interesting to have to research more, and it's always worth the time that I put in for this additional research, because it helps future families.
What advice, Anya, would you give to international parents starting their school search?
Well, I would say try and start researching before you come. I know not everybody is able to kind of have a year before they're planning to move here to start the whole process. You know, I do have families who said, I've just moved here and we're looking for a school now. That seems to be happening more and more frequently. Do as much research as you can. That may be, well, first of all, you need to make a decision about what kind of schooling you want. I would, of course, say come to an educational consultant and let them help you at least understand how the system works. For example, I do offer an hour consultation where we can talk about the Catalan school system, and families can ask any questions they want. That's really for those families that really don't have an idea of what's out there. It's a whole new world to them. So I would say, at least try and find out about how it works, the system. That might be looking at my blog, other people's blogs. There's other blogs out there where it explains the system in greater detail. If you think you're looking at international schools, start to look at websites. Now, I always say to people, and this is obviously an added extra I give, is those websites, they're not telling you the whole story. So, you know, look at the website. They give you an idea of what's on offer, but there's so much more value to be had from speaking to people directly, schools or other families or other people that know the school very well. If you can come and visit the schools, that's always ideal, but I know it's not always possible for families. Sometimes they do need to make decisions from abroad, but if you can come and visit, for me, that is such an important process of choosing a school. The feel you get when you walk through the door, the kind of things you see going on within the school grounds. All of these things are important things to take on board. There are many Facebook groups, for example, or forums where people are giving their feedback about specific schools. They can be useful, but always take it a little bit with a pinch of salt, I say, because obviously one family has got completely different ideas of what they want for their child than what you want. And yeah, it's useful to hear that this family feels like that, but obviously, especially if you don't know that family, it's not, you do need to be doing your own research from your own family's viewpoint, rather than taking on so much information from people that you don't know very well.
And in terms of advice, is there anything important that's very specific to Catalunya that parents should be aware of?
Yes, I would say the most obvious thing is the language. If you come to Barcelona from either another part of Spain or from abroad, the public schools and the concertadas teach mainly in Catalan. So the school day for most children will be Catalan, with Spanish and English usually taught as foreign languages. It can depend a little bit on the schools. Some schools may teach certain subjects in Spanish or English in addition to the language subjects. But yeah, that is something that many people don't realize when they come here. I would say another thing is that people expect that within Barcelona, within Catalunya, they will be able to find schools that teach predominantly in Spanish, but that actually isn't the case, neither with public schools, concertadas, or private schools. The private schools will teach in generally a foreign language with maybe following a different curriculum, overseas curriculum, but the languages that they will teach in will be in English or French or German. There won't be any schools that teach in Spanish as the predominant language.
And finally, Anya, what would you say is the best part of your job?
I love meeting the new families. They come from all over the world. They bring with them their unique stories. I feel that I'm learning about other cultures and the way things work in other cultures through these families. And I really enjoy that aspect of the job. I always have. I also, of course, really feel a sense of satisfaction when it's a job well done, when the family's feedback, how helpful I've been, and I can see that I have made their lives much easier, at least in terms of the process of choosing a school. They feel that somebody is supporting them, and I really like to do that. I love helping them.
Well, I really enjoyed talking to you today, Anya. Thank you very much for joining me. I will put at the bottom of the screen your website address. That's www.mybarcelonaschool.com. And there, if anybody's interested, they can find out more about your services and your packages that you offer. And they'll also find your contact details, telephone number and email address. So thank you very much, Anya.
Thank you, Jane. It's been a pleasure.